I can see her lying back in her satin dress, in a room where you do what you don't confess. Sundown, you better take care if I find you've been creeping round my back stairs. Sundown, you better take care if I find you've been creeping round my back stairs. She's been looking like a queen in a sailor's dream, and she don't always say what she really means.
Happy Homebrew Wednesday on a, man, I always sit in the wrong chair. Happy Homebrew Wednesday on a Tuesday evening. I'm feeling really missing baseball right now, so I figured I'd throw on my Washington National bling. Okay, I've been waiting for this. I finally got told that I was off the hook for alternate for SJ Pour Challenge, so I'm gonna review my own damn beer. I've never done this before, not from an SJ Pour Challenge. I've always just reviewed other people's beers, so I was surprised this one got eliminated from round 2, which was my only round. So I'm gonna review it. Got my scores back. It looked like I had a batch of scores that were all pretty tightly grouped, and then I had a couple of scores that were kind of below that kind of take me out of the running. But you know, figured, hey, might as well crack another one and you know, see if I can pick up on some of the comments. So I'm actually glad that I get to drink these because it's damn good. I think Munich Dunkel, and it's funny, I talked to SJ about this before. You know, he was my hub that I sent my beers to, about my concern, because this is a, you know, it's a very out of the norm kind of beer for me. I don't normally do a lot of Dunkels, but this is my year of the lager, so it made sense that I did a lager. So first look at this thing, and I gotta show you. I gotta give you the full effect here. So this beer is there. Can you see that? Look how clear that thing is, and it's that's freaking Dunkel right there. That's it's brilliantly clear. Brilliantly clear. My ABV on this thing was. I did 2 batches. The first batch I did was 5.8%, and the adjunct was cinnamon. So first time I put the cinnamon all in the end of the boil, and it the beer came out good. It was closer to the Munich Dunkel like ABV content, but I found that it was just a little bit dry with like almost like a tannin kind of quality at the end of the taste. And I'm pretty sure it's because I put the cinnamon sticks in the boil for, I don't know, I can't remember what it was. It wasn't a whole lot. It was like 10 or 15 minutes, but it caused way too much, in my opinion, tannin. Now my wife loved it. She still drank it, even though she normally only drinks 10% beers. So I said, you know what, I'm going to rebrew this again. I mean, it was a good standby just in case if I had to use it. Because the lagering takes a while. It takes me about a month, right, to do a lager. Using the method I use. So, but I jumped right on it, and because I figured if I can brew it early, once I knew what I was doing, and it could sit around for a while. It wasn't like an IPA that I normally want to brew as close as I can to when I ship. So I did the rebrew, and I also I did 2 things. First, I limited the cinnamon in the boil to 1 stick in the last. I want to say flame out. I think I did it at flame out, or like the last 5 minutes. I think flame out. Did a brief whirlpool. Then I used the second stick of cinnamon in the fermenter, because a lot of the reading I did said you'll get more of the cinnamon quality. Now here's the thing. Well, first of all, let me give you some notes on this. Yeah, it's what I remember. So it's a Dunkel. I mean, you know, I actually drank a Hofbrau Dunkel like side by side with this thing, and other than the very slight cinnamon, because I know it's in there, there's absolutely, you know, not much of a difference. I mean, it tastes like a Dunkel, you know. So Yeah, God, I love this thing. It's got perfect carbonation. The taste, it's that kind of hint of a brown, but more of a lager. The only thing that I think that maybe a slight bit of the tannin in there, not a whole lot, but I think that's only because of the cinnamon. I couldn't put more cinnamon in this. I guess I could have cheated and put some cinnamon spice, but that's not using an adjunct. Unfortunately, putting cinnamon in a beer, you know, if you really want to get that flavor and you put it in the boil, you got to be really careful with it because that cinnamon flavor will give you a very strong tannin, which is what I found on the first batch. So anyway, the second thing I did besides changing where and how I added the cinnamon, and I went from 1 stick to 2 sticks. I used 1 stick in the initial version, but just that brief time boiling it in the kettle gave it a very but it gave it a noticeable tannin, which I didn't like, and it was a bit dry. So I raised the alcohol up to 6.5% for the second version because I wanted it to be a little sweeter. And it worked. I mean, it came out a little sweeter than the last one. Oh man. And I actually had this dunkel with, I didn't even have a name for this thing. I think I called it Festivus or something. But I had this during my wife made a German dinner. We had sauerkraut and, sausage and, all that. And it's perfect. I mean, I tell you, I don't know if I can brew a better beer than this thing right here. So yeah, I was a little surprised when I didn't make the cut, but I'm so busy with Rick right now. It's probably a blessing in disguise. So, yeah, I think some of it, the unfortunate thing, I guess, is that, most of these, at the SJ Pour, you, like the one year we did a session beer, it was like sours were the ones that were doing, I think, the best. I think Josh Hoover's, I want to say, was it his red IPA that won the U.S. that year? I think it might have been, or was second, or I can't remember what it was, but his red IPA did really well, and that was amazing how much flavor he packed into an IPA that was a session strength. I'm still amazed by that. But on a session beer, it's really hard to compete with a sour beer because sour beers just have so much flavor, and that's a lesson I learned. So then we did the last year's SJ Port competition, which was, open style. So I did my wheelhouse, which was the double IPA. And everything was going fine. I was like killing the top position until the final round, and I did something on the third rebrew, because I rebrewed that thing every single round, and something happened. I don't know if it was oxidized or what, but it took out all the quality of the hops, and that was a bummer. So not sure how I did it, but I did it. Now this time I picked a beer that I didn't have to rebrew. That was my strategy, that would age well, and was different. So I thought it would stand out. And I didn't suspect a lot of people would be using cinnamon for their adjunct. I will say I'm a little disappointed because there's a lot of folks using flaked oats, which to me, that's not really an adjunct, that's a fermentable. But understand, guys, flex the rules, and we let folks do that, and it is what it is. But you get the typical mango, pineapple, orange. I'll be honest, this guy here, I'm not a big adjunct fan. If I'm drinking if I was to brew this Dunkel again, I wouldn't put cinnamon in it because I don't really think it. I had to put something in it. I wanted to do a Dunkel. That's the style I wanted to do, and I just couldn't think of any other adjunct I could have put in here that would be noticeable, and apparently this wasn't noticeable. But another word on that. This is what I look at as a Dunkel with a hint of cinnamon. I don't like adjuncts in general. I'm more of a Reinheitsgebot kind of guy. I like pure. I'm a purist when it comes to recipes. I like clean beers. I don't like, gimmicks. I don't like this beer that and I had recently. I had a coconut IPA from Ryan Rashan. that was an excellent use of an adjunct, because it was an IPA that had the, unless someone told you that the coconut was in it, you might not know it. But when I noticed it and I drank it, I was like, wow, that coconut really, it blends nicely in with the aroma and the flavor, and it just enhances it. You know it's there when someone tells you there, you read it on the label, you're not gonna crack it and like, oh, that's a lot of coconut, you know? And that's perfect. That's how I like doing adjuncts. I think that adjunct should not be, you know, it shouldn't dominate the quality of the beverage. This guy's opinion. So I think some of my low scores was because, you know, some of the cinnamon just wasn't noticeable. I think it was noticeable, probably the tannin that some of them picked up in. And again, if I had to do with, it's one of the things if I would change about the SJ Pour, I don't like all of the, and I've been very vocal about this, I don't like all of the things that they put on you. You have to do this, you have to, I mean, okay, using something out of your garden, like grow local, that's kind of cool, but, you know, you got to use these kind of grains, and you have to do this and this with the hops. So once it gets to be too stringent, it kind of loses the fun for me. I did enjoy the beers, but just as a Mike Deanism, I just don't really get all excited about, you know, using adjuncts. So there's that. That said, it's a shame because this beer, I mean, I'm hoping that when SJ Pour competition goes forward, you know, it seems like you got the final round, there's like a whole bunch of IPAs, you know, and the beer that I think is going to win, well, I shouldn't say that. I'll just say this, it's very different. I think that one's going to do well, but who knows? But I kind of hope that in the future going forward, the SJ Pour Challenge figures out a way, SJ, to encourage different beer styles, you know, and maybe a theme might be, I guess you could call this boring, but pick a beer style. Pick a beer style. Maybe you can do, I'd like to do a lager, but, you know, I guess not everybody can lager, you know. You can't hide mistakes in a lager. You know, pick a beer style. You know, maybe the deal is you got to pick a beer style. You can go session, regular strength, or imperial with it, but it's the same beer style. And the reason I think that might be interesting, because I think in a lot of cases, folks just don't understand the beer style or don't know a beer style well enough. Maybe they don't drink it a whole lot. I know I don't drink I didn't drink a Dunkel a whole lot. Until I went to this German restaurant and I had this awesome Dunkel, and I'm like, damn, I need to brew that. So now I know the style very well. This is spot on a Dunkel style. But I think that, and that happened to me on my first SJ Pour competition. I was grading or scoring Dan Desolate's, it was that clam juice Gosa, and I didn't know what the hell I was drinking. I didn't know anything about a Gosa, and I, you know, tore it up on the scorecard. But in retrospect, and I even, you know, talked to Dan afterwards and said, hey man, I actually saw him in person the last NHC, but I told him, I said, man, I really screwed you on your Gosa because that thing was really good. Now I know Gosas, I drink them a lot. So so anyway, that's, I guess, enough said about the Dunkel. It was a sad little misunderstood beer. Again, I look at all the scores I got, they were all like right there, grouped in the low mid 30s, mid to low 30s, and then I had a couple scores that kind of, you know, knocked me out of the running. But oh well, we'll see what they come up with next year. So I've kind of thrown out what I'm interested in. So I don't know. We'll see what the comp comes up with. That said, it was still a lot of fun. We actually, you know, going through with a beer competition, like probably the only. I mean, it would be interesting to see how many competitions actually happen in 2020. So probably, unless they happen or they were spillovers from 2019 to 2020, or they happen somehow in the first month or two, probably not that many. You probably go through the Zymergy magazine where they list all the BJCP certified competitions. I bet you hardly any of those things happen. So this SJ Pour competition is probably one of the only ones going on, which is kind of cool. Man, this is so good. I'll tell you what, if you haven't brewed, one, I'm going to brew this again without cinnamon. I think it's going to be a different beer because I think the cinnamon just really does something to the taste. But if you haven't brewed a dunkel, or if you haven't drank a dunkel, you probably have drunk. I have drunk. Probably have drunk a dunkel before. But man, have another one. It's one of those styles that you don't see very often. They're really kind of hard to find. It took me a while to find one in the bottle shop, and it was I think it was called Edelweiss. It was named after it's the Von Trapp brewery actually, the guys that from The Sound of Music. But they it had a dunkel, and I drank it, and and then of course I had the Hofbrau at the German restaurants down the street. I love dunkels. I mean, dunkels to me it's all you like about a lager, and it's all you like about a dark or a brown ale, and it's kind of somewhere in between. And it's made for drinking and pounding beer and eating good food, which probably something I shouldn't be doing because I'm on my Peloton now. So anyway, I just chewed up 15 minutes. So obviously this was an interesting topic to me. Man, yeah, I don't think I can. My wife loves this. I don't think I can brew a better beer than this. I mean, just from a technical standpoint, this thing was some of my best work I've done to date. So, anyway, I will leave it right there, fellow brew tubers. Anything else I want to talk about? Did I mention I'm missing baseball? I heard there was rumor it might come back for 4th of July weekend or somewhere thereabout. I don't know. I haven't been watching the sports news very much. It's kind of hard to catch sports on the news these days. The sports newscasters, imagine those poor bastards, man. If your whole, the weatherman's fine. I mean, weather doesn't stop, but sports just stop one day. Now you got guys, sportscasting NASCAR and. I think golf just started up. I saw some guys doing a golf tournament, which makes sense. But then I've seen other videos on like Facebook or somewhere where they're memes or these sportscasters who have the perfect voice, and they're like they're bored. Their work isn't happening, so they're just finding videos of some random thing. Like this one I saw, these monkeys or these chimpanzees were running around just tearing these people up. I don't know if they broke out of a zoo or whatever, and the guy's like. Sportscasting is like, oh, that guy just got, and they use some profanity, but it's funny because it's the sportscaster's voice that you would normally hear like in a soccer game or a football game or something. So they're really funny. I forget the guy's name. He's pretty famous, but you think about it, they got to be really bored. I mean, if you announce football, other than maybe a Columbine or the combine or the draft, what are you going to talk about? That's got to suck. Anyway. All right, I just strayed off into the unknown. So that's all I've got for today. Been doing a lot of biking and a lot of swimming. Can you tell? Because my face looks skinny. So anyway, have yourself a happy homebrew. Good luck to all you SJ Port Comp guys out there. I think I know who's going to win. And have a very, very happy homebrew Wednesday. Cheers.